Superheroes aren't good anymore. Superheroes aren't good. Superheroes were good.
Jack, climb now!
I can't!
Yes, you can!
Superheroes were good.
I'm dying very soon.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Could you stay with me? I'm scared.
Superheroes used to be good.
Lord knows, kids like Henry need a hero. Courageous, self-sacrificing people, setting examples for all of us. I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble. Even though sometimes we have to be steady and give up the things we want the most.
Nowadays, when we think of superheroes, we think of those guys that are like really good at fighting because they have some sort of power or skill or ability or like item thing that makes them really good at beating the crap out of people that are not good. But as heroes, they really aren't actually all that much to look up to. Captain America is a man who feels betrayed by the modern government, and at his heart, he feels out of touch, so he abandons his role of being a hero to live a married life. Iron Man is a genius scientist with unlimited resources, but he struggles with a fear of the unknown and a desire to control, so he creates weapons. At the end of his existence, he gives up a normal life so that he could kill an alien on a battlefield of other superheroes killing things. Thor is a prince who lost his family and dealt with his grief by eating and playing video games, only to realize that he is still worthy of being a hero because he can still summon a magic hammer. These stories succeed in giving context to the engaging action sequences that we pay to see, but they fail at telling a heroic story, something that teaches us about ourselves and shows us an honorable way of pressing through adversity. I'm never going to be able to pick up a hammer and realize that I'm worth something. I'm probably never going to be in a situation where I go and get killed so that my friends can escape something, which seems to be the only thing that modern heroes are capable of doing in an actual heroic sense. And if we're being honest, is that all that superheroes are meant to be? Action heroes with never-ending fights to keep us hyper-stimulated for a short but soon forgotten experience? Myths have always been created to reflect the integral themes and experiences of human life. They shape the way that we perceive reality by providing insightful truths and lessons that reflect a timeless wisdom. Hercules, or Heracles if you're nasty, isn't a story about how cool fights are when your hero has super strength. It's about the damage we cause when we allow ourselves, our pride, and our emotions to go unchecked. His story ends with him accidentally murdering his wife and children in a blind rage after he slaughters an army. The story of Solomon isn't about outsmarting God, it's about seeking wisdom instead of fleeting material gain. If you don't know, the story of Solomon is basically about God saying Solomon can ask for whatever he wants, and Solomon asks for wisdom. God gets really psyched about that and decides, I'm not just gonna give you wisdom, but also wealth and honor. What we don't realize is that superheroes are mythology. Superman, the story of an alien who has to acclimate to a world that he doesn't feel like he belongs to. A story about someone who, despite having nearly infinite power, can't save everyone. A story written by two people who were discriminated against and bullied for being outsiders. A story created to serve as a beacon of hope and an example for the type of people needed in this world. A modern mythological hero.
Superman! Possessing remarkable physical strength, Superman fights a never-ending battle for truth and justice.
Some people say Superman is boring because his fights boil down to who can punch the hardest, and I don't blame them. If all I did were watch DC movies, that's all I would think there was to this milquetoast goober of a man, but that isn't it.
Everything's going to be okay.
Here you go, friend.
Thanks. Cool costume.
Thanks. My mom made it for me.
He does say that while not all of us are going to save the world or accomplish great things, if we can help just one person, then it might just be enough. The woman gets tired and says she doesn't want to talk a while. He waits all night, doesn't move, never leaves her side. Just waits patiently until she's finally ready to talk again. And when she does, Superman asks her to take his hand if she thinks that she might have even one happy day ahead in her life. And that's enough for the barrier to come down. The day is saved in both cases. Not by a punch, not by thwarting an evil scheme, and barely any superpowers. Just by listening, and caring enough to give someone a little light when it needed it most.
Spider-Man teaches us about taking responsibility for not only ourselves, but for the world around us. In Spider-Man 2, Peter decides he can't be a hero out of guilt. He can't live a hard life just because someone else told him it's the right thing to do.
I can't live your dreams anymore. I want a life of my own.
You've been given a gift, Peter. With great power comes great responsibility.
No, Uncle Ben. I'm just Peter Parker.
Doing good for others doesn't have to come at a complete sacrifice of your own life, because, frankly, people love you, not just the things you do. And it's because you love others that you can push yourself, that you can take on a challenge that's a little bit bigger, because at the end of the day, you know how much your actions mean to someone else.
Spider-Man did that for Henry, and he wonders where he's gone. He needs him.
Batman isn't a story about a man who terrorizes petty criminals because he's mad that his parents are dead. Batman is the story of someone fighting against a selfish desire, hatred, and loneliness. It's the story about how hurt people struggle to let others in. Sometimes it's the story of dealing with a broken home, a bad family legacy that haunts you, and learning to overcome it. It's about finding family in the people who care about you, and utilizing your gifts, talents, and resources to lift up those in need. When we see the Avengers defeat another copy and paste army of monsters, and we know they just saved the world from some sort of vague destruction for the 50th time, we kinda just stop caring. But when we see Batman keep a man from getting brutalized for the entertainment of sick-minded individuals, we start to grasp what saving people really means. It means keeping a child from growing up without a mom or a dad. It means keeping someone who's already doing all they can just to get by from losing that small amount of money that they had. When we give faces and names to the people being saved, we understand they didn't just get to not die, they got to keep living. I don't look up to the Avengers. I don't look up to Zack Snyder's Justice League, and especially not Aquaman. Somewhere along the line, people started to get bored. Obviously, the comics have always tried to keep themselves relevant with Superman's death, Marvel's Civil War, and the superhero zombie events. But in the world of superhero films, nothing was as influential as The Dark Knight's success.
Never start with the head. The victim gets all fuzzy. You can't feel the neck.
The gritty, dark, realistic take on Batman led to the slow, agonizing death of DC movies as they tried to remain relevant and pushed the progress of their cinematic universe. What if Batman was sad? No, forget about that. What if everyone was sad? Superman needs to scowl more and hate being a hero. What if Robin said, Batman? What if Joker had a damage tattoo? While DC was trying to be as edgy as they could while keeping their brand clean, new IPs could finally crawl through the muck. Enter The Boys, the most nihilistic take of superheroes put on television. In this show, we get to see the answer to the question, what if the Justice League was as broken as the world they protected?
You stay the back or I'll laser you, goddammit! I'll laser every one of you!
Every heinous act you can imagine is addressed in this show, as well as things you didn't even know made you uncomfortable. The superheroes sexually assault people, rip people apart, spy on breastfeeding women, and other weird things. This take finally had a place in media because we, as a culture, had finally grown tired of the superheroes and their lazy, soulless, sterile writing, to the point where an unrated show where a woman crushes a man's head by adult things, and it's shown, was seen as more desirable. This show was met with a massive success, as were a whole host of other similar shows, like Jupiter's Legacy and Umbrella Academy, followed by Invincible, which has a similarly unfiltered amount of gratuitous, stomach-churning body mutilation violence. And it's starting to feel like this is the new norm for superheroes. Peacemaker and even the new Justice League animated films felt like such a far cry from any semblance of the classic heroic stories. We entered into the age of the anti-hero like Deadpool, the glorification of revenge like in The Punisher, and the cynics with The Boys. All that was left for people not wanting to feel hopeless and disturbed were the Marvel films.
I know a couple of magic words myself, starting with the word please.
Please, Scooby-Doo this crap.
Now, okay, it's not that I don't like Marvel movies, because I do, most of the time. That being said, they do have this like Disney Channel, he's right behind me, isn't he? Or that went well vibe, and it makes it pretty hard to be invested in any serious capacity. These movies are fun, and it doesn't make sense to belittle them for being fun. They serve a purpose as action movies, but as superhero movies, I just think they kind of fall short. Other than generically saving the world or doing some self-sacrificial death, they don't really do anything heroic. And while I do feel like there is meaning in these movies because you can derive meaning from pretty much anything, I just don't feel like Marvel does a good job writing it. I think superhero movies have the potential to be amazing. It's a fairly outdated look to think superhero content is just made for kids. Kinda like saying anything animated is just made for kids. These are just vehicles for telling stories and developing characters and creating worlds that we as an audience can get lost in. And hopefully they realize that we don't need to put superheroes in all black to make them feel gritty, or subvert our expectations by making the good guys bad, or making movies for the lowest common denominator to sell tickets. We just need a story about someone putting others before themselves and showing how much of a difference a single good person can make.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Shouldn't the people know the hero who saved them?
A hero can be anyone, even a man doing something as simple and reassuring as putting a coat around a young boy's shoulders to let him know the world hadn't ended.
Butterfingers.
Hand her over!
Of course. Butterfingers.